4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Deej from
I'm
Bungie.
Deej from Bungie. Who are you?
I'm Rob Adams from Bungie.
Deej's friend.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. We are friends, and we also have some special friends joining us tonight for this Bungie ride along. They are the dads of Destiny. Can you hear us, dads?
Absolutely.
You can.
Yes, sir.
We can hear you.
And
as you can see,
it's a
it's a beautiful day
right here in the
Cosmodrome.
We're joined by guest Hope Bear, who is the leader of thousands of grown-up gamers on Bungie.net, who maintain a clan alliance. They play games, they raid, they guide Bungie through some fantastic games. We've actually become pretty good friends with these guys since the launch of the game.
Yes, we have.
Also here, where'd you go? Where'd you go, Rob?
I'm right over here.
You need to come over to us.
Where'd you go?
You need to come lead this tour. So we are here tonight to explore the Cosmodrome with Sweep the Leg, also known as Rob Adams, who is one of the lead world artists that helped build this place, from a series of sketches and ideas to the explorable space that you know today. So I'm going to be the camera guy and hand this whole thing over to Rob. What would you tell us about Cosmodrome first?
Well, thanks, Deej. Thanks for the intro. Cosmodrome is, well, it's very close to my heart. Spent a lot of time working on this baby over the last few years. And a whole lot of us Bungie folks worked really, really hard on this place. So basically, it's a giant G.I. Joe base. That's more or less the theme of Cosmodrome. If you took a giant G.I. Joe base and you mixed it with a space launch facility, we based it off of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, obviously. So you could imagine if Baikonur had progressed another 30 or 40 years into the Golden Age, maybe a little bit longer than that.
With the help of a mysterious spherical benefactor that tripled human lifespans and all the other wonderful things the Traveler did for us.
So what Cosmodrome is it's our fantasy about what humanity would have done with the Baikonur Cosmodrome, given unlimited global resources and magic from the Traveler to get to the colonies. That's kind of the basic rundown of the inspiration for Cosmodrome. So I'm actually gonna, before you do that, I want you to bring up a piece of concept art here. Let's bring up the Cosmodrome Cosmo Postcard 1 really quick.
So this is something that Rob has put a lot of effort into. He's actually gone way back into the archives, and we're going to be, as we explore different spaces here in Cosmodrome, he's going to show you the origins, give you a sense of how Bungie concept artists work with world builder artists to bring these things to life.
You got that up there?
So one of the things, Rob, that I found fascinating when you first spawn in is the space, this first space you walk into. And is this concept art sort of like go around how you start designing or influencing that space?
Yeah, so what we did when we were in pre-production for Cosmodrome is we had some concept artists work on inspirational shots that we call postcards. And postcards are sort of like, it's kind of like what it sounds like. It's really an image that encapsulates or is iconic of the whole place, and it kind of combines everything that you want in a single image. So with this one, this was done by Jamie Jones. He's a pretty well-known concept artist, and he works with us quite a bit. And what you have here is you have tanks, you have space program stuff, and you have a cloudy blue sky and a little bit of snow on the ground. And those things combined give us the essence of Cosmodrome. And pretty much all the concept art and all the work came out of this one image, or a couple of images very similar to this one. So this is our postcard for Cosmodrome, and that's why I wanted to show you guys this one.
So you knew heading into this that you were designing a space that was post-apocalyptic, right? There was a battle that had been fought over it.
Yeah, it's a bit post-apocalyptic, definitely. And another one of the really strong themes that we wanted to go for was nature ascendant over humanity. And the idea there is really that nature eventually reclaims the Earth after humanity has had to retreat. Can you bring up Colony Ship 0? cool. That one's up there. All right, so if you guys take a look at this, so this image is really where it kind of all started with Cosmodrome. So one of the challenges that I asked our concept team was to come up with a way to put the ship at the center of a base and have all things radiate out from the ship. And so Jesse Van Dyke did this one here. And if you look in the middle of the image, you can see these giant waterway vents that go out from the launch platform. And that was really key to figuring out how the rest of the base would get laid out. And then you can see those gantries on the upper right that go off at 45-degree angles from the ship. That's kind of where it all started. And then everything layout-wise just radiated out from this.
Huh. That's fascinating. I mean, I think some of the things that like immediately jump to mind when you first start. I know we talked about the first initial feelings, but your actual first initial feelings of the Cosmodrome are outside when you don't have a weapon, right? You've just been revived, and you see all these broken down cars, and you're oh yeah, let's get these guys out of here.
There we go.
Must shoulder charge somebody.
Yeah,
okay.
It's funny, and it's good that you mentioned that, Pope, because what's really great about we got really lucky with Cosmo because the actual Baikonur Cosmodrome is in Kazakhstan, and the steppes of Kazakhstan were the perfect geographical palette for what we wanted to do here. And if you guys look out in this direction, you look out at these rocks, and then you look to the right, and you see all these rock formations. This was based really, really closely off of the actual desert steppes of Kazakhstan. We used tons of photo reference. And so we were able to get it to look really similar to Kazakhstan, and then also make these really practical gameplay spaces where we could break up the play areas to block visibility and create encounter pockets. So it worked really well from an art standpoint and also for practical reasons.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you that feeling that there's something beyond too, you know what I mean? Over there on the walls and...
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about the highway?
Yeah, we can head, let's go through the hangar. So while we're doing this, sometimes I'm going to refer to these spaces with our working titles. Sometimes I'll refer to them with the names that you see on the disk. And I'll do my best to use the on-disk names whenever I can. So this is what we called the hangar. And this is where the player, finds their ship. This was a really important part of the story and about an important part of the player progression and how the player kind of gets back on their feet and they're able to get back to the tower. But another thing that this space does is it separates the divide from the steppes. So the steppes and the divide are both really, really big areas. And when we ship on the PS3 and the Xbox 360, there was no way that we could get those two areas to be adjacent to each other because of memory constraints. So one of the reasons we did this was to actually provide a technical memory buffer between those two spaces and give us a spot for the player ship.
When you come into this space, your heart's pumping. You don't know where you are. You don't know where you are. You're coming in. Your ship is right there, and you're a level 2, right? You've just hit level 2,
right?
And you get introduced. You've just been introduced to your ghost, and you're wondering how the heck you're gonna get out of here and where you're off to next.
Exactly.
I think this space for me was I think when I first did this part, I creeped around the corner here. I had just gotten my grenade, and I was so impressed because I saw all these falling over this ship, and I'm like, ah, man, I'm gonna have to fight them off. So I think you accomplished that. It was really exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, we wanted it to be kind of creepy, and we wanted this great reveal of this ship. Is the ship up right now, Scott? You can see the ship right now. It's up. Okay.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
awesome. So this ship, this piece of art was done by Adrian Myshak, one of our concept artists, and I really like the way this one turned out. The lighting is especially great. You come around the corner, you see this reveal, the lights hitting the ship perfectly, everything's framed up, And the original idea was that you would be in Cosmodrome and you'd be helpless, just kind of walking around with nothing except this old gun. And you would happen upon this ship that might be able to get you back to the tower. And it might be able to like limp its way back, you know, through the low atmosphere, back to the tower and get you back to safety. And this ship would have been, it would have belonged to a Guardian who long ago was stranded here, and he tried to get it repaired. And in that picture, you can see some cables and like a terminal underneath it, where this Guardian had been trying to get the ship running again. And you know, who knows what happened to him. So we kind of hope that people would wonder about the ship and where it came from. That's where it came from.
I was my heart sunk when Dinklebot said that the ship was catatonic. And I'm like, no! I want it to work!
I want to go home!
I want to go home.
Wherever home is, I want to go!
Give me this! Yeah.
So we're going to cruise
his
this
last
way,
hope
keep
was he
following.
said it would get us to the tower, but maybe not much further.
Yep,
So
yep, that's about it. So it barely limps its way back to the tower, and then of course, you know, it gets repaired, and you're able to get into orbit and eventually get to the moon. So now we're walking into the Divide, and our working title for this was Graveyard, because once upon a time we were going to have this littered with civilian vehicles and tanks, and this was going to be the scene of some epic battle between Cosmodrome's paramilitarized security forces and the panicked civilian population that was trying desperately to get in and somehow get onto a colony ship. And over time, that kind of got toned back. We couldn't actually afford to have that many civilian vehicles in here for performance reasons, and so it got cleaned up a bit. And it was also getting really noisy with all the cars and whatnot.
Yeah.
So what we have now is we have these tanks, which are, I think we're going to show. Can we bring up Divide 5? Cool. Okay,
You know what? Yeah, can I bring a little bit of perception into when I first came through the store and I looked through here? I thought that I was on the lower portions of Salvo Highway.
Sure.
It was a little odd. Like I looked up and I saw the highway going up, and I just had a mini flashback to that. I know they're totally different worlds, but I just felt like I was in that space.
So what you're looking at right now is so this is a picture done by Joe Cross, and it's a really good illustration of how we wanted to put these buildings together. And this was heavily inspired by NASA buildings that you see out in like Cape Canaveral, where they're these giant buildings that don't have a lot of windows, and you can tell there's a lot of interior space. And buildings like this are kind of unique to the space program, or like Martin Marietta or Lockheed, or the, you know, companies that build aerospace type stuff. So we wanted to kind of make the buildings around Cosmodrome, and especially the Divide, feel like this. So let's go ahead and...
I noticed there's some of that first concept art in the background there as well. Some of the things that were from the first concept art, like the towers in the background, very similar to the first picture that you showed us as well.
Yeah, exactly. Can you bring up Divide 1? Cool. So in this one, this is done by Dorje Belbrick. And this is a good example of a highly illustrative concept that solves a lot of visual problems and navigational problems. So some of our concept artists, they work really, really closely with us to try to come up with great composition for the actual space.
Wow.
So instead of an inspirational concept, you'll get something that's actually more of an illustration of how to build the space.
Scott, make sure we're cutting back to the game between shots, just because I'm framing up the world with the concepts.
And then bring up Divide 2
really
really
crazy.
quick.
Yeah, it's literally a look back through time.
And then look to your left.
Yep.
Each over there.
Absolutely. Having flashbacks to E3 already.
I'm having like crazy desires for these to be my desktop background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are awesome. So Dorje
are
did this one
great.
too. And so here you can kind of see the entropy and the decay of the facility over time, you know, centuries of earthquakes and wind and settling and water intrusion and all that kind of stuff just plays a part. One of the things that we were really careful to do with our decay of Cosmodrome was we didn't want to have a lot of damage. We didn't want to age the place and decay it with damage. We wanted to have it be more age-related. Things like, the water intrusion, seismic activity, all that kind of stuff. So when you see pictures like this, you're not going to see giant craters from shells or, bullet holes. You're going to see the effects of time more than anything.
It's falling apart. I'm going to
it's
put
just
me a
falling
Nova
apart,
Lance right through
basically.
that vent. You ready?
So why don't we bring up Divide 4 really quick? Okay. So in this one, this is another one by Dorje. And so what he tried to do here was solve one of our problems, which was, how does this place work? Where are the roads? Where do people come in? And if you run around this space enough, you'll start to notice security booths and evidence of roads and train tracks and monorails. And all this is very deliberate. It was an attempt for us to rationalize the space and tell a story about how the base worked. And I go back to that G.I. Joe base metaphor. We really tried to whiteboard out and draw out this place like a 12-year-old kid designing like the best G.I. Joe base they could ever design, right? That was kind of our goal. That was the note that we wanted to hit. And so that's kind of what Dorje did, was he went G.I. Joe on this thing for that concept.
Wow.
You can see that stuff still present in the game world.
Totally. Bringing up Divide Tank really quick. Cool. So this one's done by Frank Capizzuto. And so you see this tank, it's not super futuristic, it's not really all that crazy, but it does look like it's something that you'd see maybe in 20, 30 years. We put a bunch of extra electronics on the top and just kind of combine different sort of futuristic looking optics and things. So again, one of the goals of Cosmodrome was to make it highly relatable, very, very grounded in contemporary imagery and themes and technology, but also feel a little bit futuristic, so that it would have felt like something that had been around our time, but had progressed a little bit farther. Cool. All right.
And then you can see how well this stuff actually translates from the concept art to the actual in-game art. And the thing that I really found interesting as I got to know Jesse Van Dyke is he would show me concepts that you could just lift right out of the game, and it's not just, when you think about concept art, you think of really rough sketches, like maybe the aliens could look this way, or they would give you one postcard, and when you think about video game development, you think about people just sort of turned loose to go do whatever they want to do. But it's really interesting to me how you guys literally have worked in lockstep throughout, a lot, not every single square foot certainly, but the way this stuff is laid out and the things that you would expect to find in these spaces really is highly informed by concept art. And I know that like Pete Parsons at Bungie used to love to say that we created more concept art for Destiny than all of the Halo games that we made combined, simply because with this new world that we were looking to envision, we looked at it from every single angle just to decide what sort of place this would be. And that's where those themes crept up, like a world that is smashed, and a world that has decayed but still strangely beautiful. Nature reclaiming the planet can't be ugly. And the fact that we have these dashing heroes who are coming back out here to reclaim what we've lost and sit on a tank barrel, apparently.
Oh, we should have put grass on. Oh, there is grass on the tank barrel. See, get the little bushes on the tank barrel.
Yeah, exactly.
Lovingly placed
Lovingly,
by a caring artist.
I mean, if your tank can grow flowers, that's pretty beautiful, ain't it?
That's pretty beautiful.
Get down off of there. Get down.
It's really cool how the detail in the concept art even makes its way in as well. A lot of times you pass by a tank, right, and you just see a tank, but
still,
that detail in the back of your mind when you see it is really, really, really cool. Makes it polished to see the detail.
So, Deej, Rob, we're gonna have throughout this walk through Cosmodrome, we're gonna have different people from the community pop their head in. And one of the first people to join us is Dado. He's just joined the party, and he's gonna hang out for a little bit and ask a couple questions.
Cool. Fire away.
Dado.
What's up, Dado? You there?
I think he's there.
Hello, sir.
Dado, you here with us? All right, while we're waiting for Dado, I'm going to talk about this wall really quick. So I think everyone's familiar with the other side of this wall. When you first start the game, this is the giant, epic, keep the riffraff out of the sensitive space facility wall. And there's a little bit of backstory to this thing. This was erected during the latter stages of Cosmodrome's existence before the collapse. And when the collapse was happening, you would have had millions and millions of panicked civilians trying to escape the onrush of the darkness and trying to get to Cosmodrome in the hopes that they could have gotten on one of these colony ships, one of the last colony ships taking off to the colonies. And of course,
Is that
they weren't able.
what we see behind us here, Rob?
Yep.
Right here, like in the skybox, these are our colony ships.
Those
right?
were the last colony ships that never actually took off. Can you bring up Highway 1? Thanks. So I'm going to show you guys some more concept art. Cool. So the one that you see here this is done by Jesse Van Dyke. And what this is the highway when you first start off in the game. And what players do is they walk through this massive field of abandoned cars. And these would have been the millions of people trying to get into the base. And of course, most of them never got in. But some of them did get in and were able to create quite a bit of chaos. And as we go through the game a little bit later, I'll show you the evidence of that. Can we bring up
Dad, are you there?
Highway 2?
He said he's checking his audio right now.
Okay. All right, well, while Dado's checking his audio, let's look at this picture. This is done by Dorje Belbrook. And so this is one of those things where we were trying to come up with kind of futuristic cars.
I'm here. Sorry about that. I did not
okay.
have
Right, there you are. What's going
proper
on, man?
wiring going to the
Yay.
PlayStation.
We were so worried.
I was worried.
That sounded like sarcasm.
No.
Oh, we were worried.
We were worried.
We want to hear his questions.
Okay, go ahead, Rob.
Okay, Dado.
I'm like loving the story right now.
Oh, okay, let me
Go
talk
ahead,
about this car, and then Dado can ask his question.
Okay.
So what's cool about this car is it's a little bit futuristic, it's a little bit contemporary, but it's not too futuristic that it's not relatable. And so we really try to balance this line between like highly relatable, recognizable things, and things that would still hold up in a slightly future place. So you know, we still see cars driven around on the road right now from the 1970s and 1980s. So there's no reason why this car couldn't have just been like an average car 20, 30, 40 years from now. And that was one of the weird challenges, just making vehicles that didn't seem out of place or too futuristic or not relatable.
Sure.
And we're always trying to balance that line. That's why I like this picture, because it kind of
Yeah.
balances that line really nicely.
And right here, you know, in the rocket yard or the divide, you know, even when you take a look at this truck, you know, if you're given the magic of the traveler, it's like, what do you want? You want better spaceships or you want better semis?
Yep.
It's like, for my money, if I have space magic to spend, I'm going to spend it on the spaceships.
And that's
because
and that's
the semis, they do their job.
Exactly, and you bring up a really good point, and thanks for reminding me. What really happened during the Golden Age was we didn't get better looking Ferraris and better looking semi trucks and more sweet, sexy, glossy office buildings. What we got was humanity coming together, building these space vehicles, building the colonies, and all the resources and things were really going into that. So the normal towns and cities and around Earth and vehicles and stuff, everything just kind of slowed down while humanity poured its resources into the space program, into the colonies.
Now I'm having a Wicked E3 flashback.
Where's Darla?
Hey guys, hey,
Hey, Darla!
hey Darla, it's a public event. You guys ready?
Wait, there she is.
There she is.
There she is.
This is crazy.
Oh my gosh.
All right, let's follow them in.
So, do you guys want to see a really
Wow.
sweet before and after?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so bring up Highway 2011 really
Absolutely.
quick. All right. So, what you're looking at right now is the outside of Cosmodrome, where the player first starts, back in October 2011.
Yeah, that's rough.
And I can take credit for this one.
I mean,
Embarrassing.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
This was really this is what we call mass out. Some studios call it gray boxing, but what we do here is we just sort of sketch, and it's sort of like a artist or whatever just kind of sketching around until they figure out what they want. And this thing changed 30 or 40 times before we settled on the real layout. And then it went from that to bring up 2014, Highway 2014. Thanks, Scott. So a couple years later, we have this. And what what you see here represents hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours of work from between 10 to 20 artists. Between concept art, we've got skybox artists, we've got hard surface 3D modelers, we've got environment artists, shader artists, texture artists.
Wow.
It's crazy. Like it's really hard to appreciate the amount of people and the amount of hours that goes into something like this. But
Is that what you mean when you say that it was inspired by a G.I. Joe base?
Yeah.
Because that's exactly
I know.
that shield wall. All you need is a big cannon sticking out of the top
totally.
of it. And that's,
Yep.
That's it right there.
G.I. Joe base. Cool. Dado, did you want to ask Dado if he has a question?
did Dado drop out of party, or is he still here?
No,
I'm
Dado is
I'm
here.
here. I
Alright.
undummified myself.
Well,
So the question I had was, where you fight the Devil Walker, there's like that. It's like basically a giant ramp down into kind of like a crater, and it comes back up. It looks like just a meteor or something landed there. I think you guys are pretty close to it. You guys are in the divide right now, I think, on stream. Yeah. So I was just wondering why was it designed kind of like that, as opposed to just it being kind of flat, like what happened there?
I can see it. So you're talking about where the Devil Walker
where the
was,
Devil Walker lands.
Are we talking about?
Yeah,
Are you
in
talking
the,
about the E3 demo Devil Walker, or are you talking about the
Right.
Devil's Lair Devil Walker?
No. I'm talking about the Devil's Lair. So you guys have to go into.
Oh,
We're actually
man.
we're gonna run that strike at the end of this show, so perhaps we can do that question justice at that time.
Dado, I'm actually going to answer
we'll do
that
that.
specific question very specifically when we get there. So
Okay, cool.
you won't even have to re-ask it. I'm going to hit that one for you.
All right, good.
'Cause that's a great question.
All right, perfect.
That is a great question.
We actually
Awesome.
had a Devil Walker here just a minute ago, but as you can see, our friends in this public space have done a very efficient job in dispatching all these fallen.
All right. So let's go ahead and head back to the steps.
Okay.
Back through
Following
the hangar.
you.
All right. Get on our little
Real quick,
So, yeah,
if
this
I
is-
could
bikes.
get a question in from chat. They were saying, was the walls in Old Russia originally built to keep out humans instead of the Fallen, as we kind of presumed?
That's a really good question. We wanted to kind of keep that a little bit ambiguous. We wanted it to feel like it was maybe for both. So I don't want to answer it because they're actually
that's
we don't
good. I
actually have an
understand.
answer
Leave
to
it
that.
to
We
the
wanted to,
imagination.
yeah,
You sound like
I
me.
got you.
yeah. Sorry.
You know.
I'm learning from the master here.
No, don't learn from me. Don't learn
We
from
can
me.
neither confirm nor deny.
Exactly.
Confirm nor deny the purpose of the original walls for you to discover for yourself in a playable scenario.
I like to think that it was for the people because it just seems kind of more G.I. Joe that way. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Well, and you had said that some of the people did, make their way in. Some of the early ideas where the people would come in here and say, "The darkness is coming. Let me on one of those colony ships. You got any more of those colony ships?" And they'd say, "No, get away, go away."
How much for a ticket onto one of them
How
colony
much?
ships?
How much? Colony ship?
You can only imagine that there was not everybody could fit on them, right?
No.
So
Can you bring up
there's
vehicle one?
probably a scramble.
All right, we got another piece of concept for you guys here. Vehicle one. Cool. So this one here is done by Frank Capizzuto. And you're going to see a lot of these vehicles in Cosmo. These are very familiar looking. And again, if you just look at this thing, it kind of straddles the line between a little bit futuristic, a little bit contemporary. We tried to blur the lines there. And then, it's covered with entropy. It just looks like it's been there for 100 years or something. And we actually have an Easter egg in this picture.
You do?
Yeah. Don't you see it?
I don't know. Let me take a close look. I do not
there.
see it.
It's over on the...
Is it must be stealthy. I can't see any Easter eggs or anything really special about that picture at all.
It's very
Some
stealthy.
sort of four-legged creature.
It's extremely stealthy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm at a total loss.
All right, well, if you don't find it,
Yeah.
if you can't see it, then
Yeah,
I can't
it's
help you.
completely
Yeah,
cloaked in
no,
stealthy
sorry.
cover. Well, back to the
Oh,
game.
wow.
All right, back
That's
to the
pretty
game. Ah, this guy's talking. Is everybody hearing that?
Who triggered Peter Stormare?
Jeez.
Who did
He's
that?
picking up patrols.
So what
I
now?
gotta get my patrols in.
All right, we're going to talk about this a little bit. So, so this is Divide, and on the other side, as you guys know, off towards those colony ships, towards Skywatch, is the Moth Yards.
Yes.
And so what we wanted to do with these spaces is we wanted to open it up. So the player comes out, they've got their ship, and eventually they come out, they get on their Sparrow.
Yeah. Right.
We wanted to create kind of like this wide open expanse, this kind of epic sense of adventure.
Yeah.
And so these two areas are kind of the biggest, for the amount of playable real estate, they're some of the biggest areas that we have in the entire game. And they're separated by a transition. So transition is our technical term for a space between two spaces where you can load one and drop the other. And so what we did was we created, instead of like a dogleg canyon or a hallway corridor transition, we created a really wide dip, which is one of the only places in the game where we do this, and it's between the steps and moth yards is this big transition dip.
You taking us there now?
Yeah, we're gonna head over there. So the whole theme here is sort of like the dirty backyard of this Russian facility. So you're gonna see all kinds of drainage coming out. This huge, if you look over at this thing to the right.
Sure.
So this huge thing over here, this is actually a giant water spillway.
Oh,
so
God.
when the colony ship took off, that giant door would open up and all the water would just rush out and spill off the side with all the ammonia and hydrogen peroxide. And can you imagine what would be in that?
Yeah.
Right? Like that ship taking off. So that's why we like to think of these areas as sort of like the dirty backyard.
And it's functional. It's got I'm sure the EPA had a field day with that, because this looks like a naturally formed body of water, and you're taking ship poo and just pouring it into that nice lake.
Yeah. Well, in Russia, we don't have to worry about the EPA. So
In Russia, yes.
Soviet Russia.
In Russia, environment protects you.
Russia.
Oh, I can't make it.
Environment kill you.
Obviously, a very fun spot to take your Sparrow off. Right here when you come out and do your tricks, especially when we got the the Sparrow for the DLC coming here and doing tricks and backflips, and who can do the most of them going across this area was a lot of fun.
Go all Death Blossom if you get enough air here.
So we're gonna go into moth yards here. Can you bring up moth yards too? Show you guys another concept.
There was a film called Baraka with a lot of 70mm documentary footage, and there was a portion of that film where they had overhead footage of the the old bomber graveyards, and I found that fascinating to see that stuff in here, because it's just sort of a relic of the Cold War, where they would take their bombers out and they would bust them up so that they could see via satellite, that the ships, the bombers were in fact busted, because it was like part of their nuclear proliferation treaties and stuff like that. So as a child of the Cold War, all this Russian lore is something that really kind of tickled the imagination as I first started to see what you guys were building here all the way back in 2011.
That's awesome. So this is Moth Yards 2?
Yes.
This is a picture that's done by Joe Cross, and this was, going back to the lore and the Russian lore and stuff. Joe was heavily inspired by that, and what he tried to do was capture the kind of like the wreckage and the images of kind of like space telescopes or arrays with radio gear up on the hill, and really you've got those the blue sky, the big clouds, the birds, but more than anything, you have the feeling of welcoming openness and the sense that you can go off adventuring uninhibited. And this picture really challenged us to try to make these spaces as big as possible and explorable as possible. And I think that without this picture, these spaces would probably not have been as big. This was a really good one.
Especially for a developer that had spent so much time making Halo games, and Halo spaces felt very much like sort of a toboggan run full of action. And this wide open design, I used to remember as a hardcore Halo fan, go throw that shit at me. I'm giving a tour here, man. Come on. Cooperate. As a Halo player, I remember thinking how weird it would be to play a wide open Bungie game where you could just see other people playing the game, and you could have some of your buddies and just say, well, where do we want to go next? Because in Halo it was pretty obvious. You shot your way from bad guy to bad guy, and if you were sort of at a loss for what to do next, you just walked around until someone shot you, and it was like, oh, I'm supposed to go this way now. But in Destiny, you really can just sort of blaze your own trail.
Yeah, and it was actually a challenge to make the spaces this big. I mean, the engine is it has evolved from a hallway shooter, and it's changed a lot over the years. and we have a lot more flexibility now. But it is still a challenge to make spaces really, really big, and we're making progress
You've done good.
with our engine to get spaces that are huge. Can you bring up Moth Yards 1? So I'm going to show you guys another...
you had one more question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt, but a very commonly asked question in the chat is, why pick Russia to start with?
Well, there was a lot of reasons. The Baikonur Cosmodrome is a real place, and one of our things in Destiny is we want to make our spaces feel like very, very grounded. And one of the reasons we want to do that, like we want to make them interesting, but we also want to ground them in enough reality so that when you see things like the Fallen, or you see the Cabal, or you see the Vex, they stand out as being alien, like truly alien.
Yeah.
Right. And when you see aliens running around in an alien environment or a place that's not relatable, the combatants actually don't have that same impact of being alien and being dangerous because the environment is already a little bit pretty unrelatable.
Yeah.
So what we try to do with the Moon and Mars and Venus and Earth was make them familiar but interesting and cool. And the nice thing about the Baikonur Cosmodrome is it has that real history and that real basis in fact. So we're able to kind of tap into that sci-fi reality and just kind of go crazy with it. So, yeah.
Scott, are we looking at game or art right now? Okay, and as I understood it, you know, the adventure begins on Earth, and from there your understanding, you know, of the game world expands. So the more you play, the more the solar system expands out in front of you. And, you know, Russia was sort of the cradle of human exploration, right? I mean, this is where we came with our newfound knowledge and our newfound technology, you know, undecipherable from magic, and rushed out to the stars. So ships like these were the ones that we used to go out to Venus. You know, like last week, Lake Lowe was talking about, we get to Venus and we drop out a little shipping container and we use that to sleep in while we study the, you know, the Vex ruins. These were some of the first ships that we sent out into space, and, you know, people were even talking to me about, like, these were fuel cells, and then once the fuel was empty, they could use them as habitats and live in them for, you know, the trek across, you know, the void to the next planet. Oh, you guys left me all alone out here.
Yeah, and kind of like what Deej is saying, when we thought about where to place the space, it really did seem like humanity would have picked the Baikonur Cosmodrome as the cheap, obvious place to create this center of space colonizing operations, because it just would have been the most practical.
Yeah, and the Russians, you know, they like where they live.
And
we're tired of your Cape Canaveral.
There's not very many restrictions on what you can do and what you can't do.
I'm not. The Russian winter is comfortable. Houston, way too hot.
Very megacorp friendly over there.
So where are we
too
on
hot,
now?
too humid, right, DJ?
Yeah, too hot, too humid, excellent barbecue, fantastic sweet tea, but I will not go there for extended periods of time. Maybe for training only.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome.
Texan women I like very much.
Can you? Okay, so what we're going into right now is we're headed up into Skywatch, and I mean, people have run through this a bunch of times. This is a facility where the humanity would have done most of its communications, day-to-day communications with the colonies.
Okay.
Talking about things like, you know, transport stuff, logistics,
mission control,
mission control, all kinds of things. And so, like, the day-to-day operations of the colonies and all those communications would have come through Skywatch, and that's why you see all these domes and array buildings. And it was just convenient for them to place that in Cosmodrome. And
communications equipment and servers.
Exactly.
I mean, this totally looks like a scene from, like, Apollo 13, you know? Like, come in, Apollo.
Yeah.
Can you bring up Skywatch Hallway 1?
So, Rob, where do you come up with all the names for everything? Like, how does that happen?
So what we do is we start off with working titles. So this during production, this space that we're in right now is called Dome A. And I think we ended up calling it Terrestrial Complex, or remember, what is it? Lunar Complex. So this is the complex that would have serviced the moon, obviously, and then we have the other one I think was Venus. The names are they kind of get banged around quite a bit, and then eventually our writers decide on names when we get closer to shipping the game. just based on how the game plays and like what the missions are like, and
Yeah.
a lot of that kind of feeds into how we name these places.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll have sort of working names that help us do our job, and then, you know, the writing team, the fiction team, the lore team gets a hold of that stuff.
So the picture you're looking at right now, let's see if I can bring that thing up here. So this was done by Darren Bacon, and we were trying to figure out, so yeah, it's a broken hallway, there's stuff falling out of the ceiling. What we were really trying to solve was how much damage do we show, and how is the damage created? So you'll notice that there's not a bunch of bullet holes, there's not a bunch of like artillery shells and grenade explosions and stuff. This is things falling out of the ceiling over time. That I-beam fell because the little rivets and things that were holding it eventually rusted out and it fell down. The floor is kind of beat up. And we did a lot of these pictures to try to explore just how much damage you would see, how much would be too much. You know, we don't want the player to get their feet hung up on a bunch of stuff on the ground. We don't want them to get stuck on things poking out of the walls. And most of all, we still want them to be able to see enemy combatants when they're going down hallways. So this picture was pretty successful in solving for that stuff.
Functional spaces that tell a good story.
So you asked about names. That's a really good segue into, let me bring up Poba too. So because this is a Russian base, thanks, we spent quite a bit of time coming up with good graphics for the space agency. And Joe Cross worked with Natasha. She's speaks Russian, and she helps out with our localization. So they did a ton of these sample logos, and we just tried lots and lots of these things. So what we were trying to come up with was the basic brand image for the Russian space agency that you would see all over Cosmodrome. Can you bring up Poba 1? And those are what eventually led to this one. And you guys can see this now. Here's a whole bunch of different versions of it, and we eventually settled on the one on the far right. And I call it Poba, but that's not actually how you say it. It's Russian Federal Bureau of Aeronautics, however you would say that in Russian. But because none of us can speak Russian, we just call it Poba because it kind of looks like the word Poba. And then occasionally people go, Boba Fett?
Boba Fett,
Boba Fett, where?
And I've got that actual logo on the screen here. This is actually one of the first things you showed me when I came to Bungie, is you were showing me the new systems that were coming online,
Russian
where you
graphics.
could put a perfect logo on the wall like that, and then go through and make that stuff look deteriorated, right?
Yep, and here's another one by Joe Cross. Now, you'll notice that this kind of stuff looks like it's from the 70s. So what we really wanted to do with Cosmodrome, like, we wanted this place to feel, so the real Cosmodrome, it was built a long time ago. And what we wanted to do with this was make it look like it had been started in the mid-century, the mid-20th century, and it continued way into the 20th, 21st century, right? So by having these kind of like retro graphics alongside the more futuristic stuff, it really makes it feel like this place has spanned a century or two, right? Because you just see this progression of style, right? So I really like this
Rob,
one, that's what I wanted to show you.
Rob, really quickly here, I wanted to thank Dotto for stopping by. I know he's got to jump into some live streams, and we've got other community guys that want to drop in. So thank you, Dotto, very much for coming in, and we're going to answer your question a little bit later when we get onto the strike.
Thanks, Dotto.
I will be watching.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Thanks, Dado.
So let's head through here.
Okay. You lead the way.
All right, so we're going to walk through here, and you can see where the Hive have started to set up shop. And this is one of our flashlight areas.
I got a flashlight.
The flashlight is really useful in making the places feel creepy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think one thing that people talk about when they talk about the game having creepy moments or scary moments, at least my son talks about it, is when you come up there with your flashlight and all those thrall just come running at you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that was the first time any of us played that mission. It was like, holy crap. Or the first time you go down into the train station and those Vex eyes are glowing in the dark. I mean, anytime you can
shoot anything, anything that's red eyes.
Anything.
Yeah. That is one of the creepiest scenes. And later in the DLC, when you go back in there and you have to,
we're gonna race through here. We're running out.
You have to go hunt some guys down. That scene comes back again in an even creepier way, I think.
Yeah, the thrall are creepy.
There's you have to collect in Crota's End. You have to collect some things
Oba.
from the thralls that are preying, and it's a really creepy scene in there. It's almost like you get to revisit it and its creepiness with higher level enemies.
So where we're at now is Skywatch, and this would have been the kind of higher elevation place where all these communication facilities are connected. And this place was inspired by images of Arctic, bases in the Arctic for communication, like radar facilities and stuff. It's also, because the elevation is higher, we tried to make it more snowy. And I don't know if anyone has ever noticed this, but the rocks have about twice as much snow on them. There's a lot more snow on the ground.
Yeah.
Which is a little piece of trivia, in case anybody didn't notice that. Can you bring up Skywatch Hive Pod? And then head over here and look at the thrall pod that's going in the building here. So this one was done by Jesse Van Dyke. Actually, wait a second.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep, Jesse Van Dyke. So this is one of the communication buildings, which we call Dome C in production. And this is the entrance, of course, to Omnigul Strike.
Yep.
And so you'd see the giant cedar pod has just smashed through this building. And this thing went through a lot of iterations.
And that's the Hive insertion vehicle. That's, if you come back to the game, you can see the similarities here. This is the reason why the Hive occupy our moon, is because that's their launching off point to send these things to us so that they can invade.
So I'll show you guys a couple before and afters. Can you bring up Skywatch 2011?
There's a war starting right now.
I know, let's get... Run away! Run to safety!
Hey, just wanted to let you guys know we have Mesa Sean here with
Mesa
us
Sean.
in chat.
Okay.
Hello, guys.
Mesa, say
Hey.
hello. There you are.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, take that down again, would you?
Chat.
Welcome, Mesa.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hi, Mesa.
Hey, how's it going, sir?
Did you have a question?
Yeah, actually, I got a question from one of my subs about the Jovian complex, and Trevor Coates asks, why is there a building in the Cosmodrome called the Jovian complex? What was it built for? Xur is the only Jovian I know of that is not on a gas planet, so how does humanity know of the Jovians? Are they Jovian minions of the darkness? And Jovians, like the Awoken, will they come for the people,
I
or are they
can't
just
answer that
terrestrial?
one. That one's a secret.
Okay. And that
Okay.
question's on the no-fly list, so let's tell him
I'm
what
so
he's
sorry. I'm so sorry we can't answer that one.
Man, that was a good
That's
one.
okay.
I know, it's a
Mesa.
good
It was-
question.
I don't answer
Sorry.
questions about
About
Xur
the
either.
lore.
It's just everything
That
goes
is a
to
good
hell.
question.
That was a good question.
Yep. We're not allowed to answer that one.
Thank you for prying.
Yep.
Well, it was about the
Yes.
Jovian complex, not particularly one particular member who I won't say his name again, of course. But
I will get in trouble for elaborating on that one. I cannot elaborate
okay,
on that
no.
one. Yep.
So this is going to be
No
pretty
problem, no
hairy.
problem.
Where are we
That was a
going
great
next?
question.
Or are we still going to stay here and look at some concepts?
No, super quick. We're going to bring up Skywatch 2011 really quick. So if you guys can see this is what we're playing in right now. And this is what we had back in October 2011. And this was built in 3D Studio Max. And this was our rough pass at putting these buildings together and having like spaces in between them. And where we're standing right now is kind of in the middle of that shot.
Mhm.
And then if you can open up the 2014 one, Skywatch 2014. Cool. And that's what we've got in 2014, a few months before ship. And again, you can just kind of see how far things come
Sure.
over time.
And
All
then
right.
I've got it all framed up in game.
Let's head off into Dome C. And you guys can see there's a C on the building, and that's a little holdover from...
Where'd you go?
if you
I
go
can't
to
see
the,
nothing.
go to the
Oh, there you
doorway.
are. There you go. Okay.
And then
Rob,
look
real
at the
quick,
C
the-
right there.
I thought that's not
last
Chicago
area we're
Cubs.
in.
No.
Yeah, the Chicago Cubs. I would like to have the Chicago Cub logo on the
if
office where
if
my
that's what you want to
desk
think it
is.
is. Yeah.
All right.
So Robin Skywatch, obviously the known for the, the oh my gosh, I just draw a blank, but for the cave, the loot cave is where we were at. So obviously, anything about that there? The
Yeah,
loot
Rob.
cave
Why
that
did you
was
put a loot cave
discovered?
in Cosmo? You know how many problems that caused me?
If you guys want a piece of trivia about the loot cave, I'm actually responsible for building the loot cave, personally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Personally responsible for
However,
the loot cave. You made that my fault.
I'm not the designer that scripted it and made it actually work as the loot cave.
It was just a cave.
Yeah,
it
it was
didn't have
just
to
a
be so
cave.
notorious.
I just made a cave. I didn't know what was going to happen.
You didn't
so.
have to fill it up with Hive, who ate legendary engrams for breakfast.
Yep, exactly. So yeah,
Pooping 'em out.
now the world knows which artist actually put the loot cave there. It was me.
Well,
It's all your fault.
It's all my
Well,
fault.
or we
Mostly
have to
my
thank
fault.
you, actually. Either way, right?
Oh, wait, I got a servant of the eyes here. Hang on. Oh, look at. Well, yeah, he didn't really have a chance there.
We're gonna scramdingle right through this stuff.
Okay.
We're gonna head right down into Dome C.
Okay.
So yeah, just run past all these guys.
Lead the way.
Yep.
We're scram-dangling.
Scram-dingling.
Scram-dingling.
Scram-dingle is fast, almost as fast as scram-dangle.
Okay.
Probably.
So Mesa, do you have another question?
Yeah, just a quick one with regards to just overall, you know how we basically just have the Fallen, the Hive that are trying to occupy the Earth. How come the Vex and the Cabal don't want to steal the Traveler's Light? Why is it only the Hive and the Fallen that are trying to occupy Earth?
Well, there's some fictional reasons why we do that, and then there's actually some just theming and design reasons why we do that. We like to try to keep each destination to have two dominant combatants, so that when people think about the destinations, they think about the combatants. It kind of simplifies things.
Okay, you're...
Kind of just gives those.
Okay, gotcha.
It gives Mars an identity beyond just the terrain and like what you see there, but it gives it sort of a combatant identity as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the moon.
Right, it would be
and so
kind of
forth. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be kind of strange to see the Cabal on Earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and then in the dark below, we explore the Hive and some of their motivations and some of the different structures.
Hey, bring up Skywatch cover 1.
And then in obviously in the House of Wolves, we'll learn more about the Fallen. And the more we get to tell stories in the game, the more you play the game, the more you'll understand the different motivations.
This thing here. So you guys are looking at a picture by Darren Bacon, Skywatch cover 1. So this is we really. So we need cover, right? Like really nice shooting combat sandbox shooters. They really kind of work really well when you have rectilinear cover like this, where things are more or less square. And the reason that works so well is we have our combatants. They will bunker and move out behind cover, and they do it really well on these right angles. And if you don't have a nice right angle like that, they kind of look dumb because their body's poking out too far, and you can sit there and shoot them, and it looks like they're not very smart.
So this is the evolution of the old Halo crates.
More or less, yeah. And if you can look up it, why don't you throw up Skywatch cover 2 really quick? Okay. And so what we're doing is we're making crates, basically, but we're trying to dress them up to make them look more interesting and like they're connected to the infrastructure. And you bring up Skywatch cover 3. And here's another one where you've got screens coming off of it, and again, we're trying to get away from the cliche of the crate as much as possible, but while still retaining that square footprint.
Yeah.
So that they'll work
Dan Miller,
for
thanks.
combatants.
And then sometimes the cover is even alien in origin, like what I'm looking at here. So the fact that the Fallen come in and they drop off their own tech or their own crates. I mean, that's Fallen luggage, right? That's where they keep all of their extra capes. Right there.
That's where they keep their glimmer.
That's where they keep their glimmer and their extra capes.
Put that glimmer in there.
Yeah. Hey, do not punch the Fallen luggage, man. You're gonna bring an Archon
I'm
priest
so sorry,
in here.
Deej.
We're not. We're
Follow
falling behind.
Follow me.
Let's.
Rob, I wanted to thank Mesa for jumping in. He's a friend of the podcast and somebody that we enjoy playing with. So
Sure,
thank you very much
thanks,
for
guys.
jumping in, Mesa.
Friend of the community.
Okay, much appreciated.
We'll see you soon.
All right, you guys have a great night.
See you, Mesa.
guys.
Thank you,
You
sir.
too.
Take care, guys.
Let us catch up.
Hurry
So,
up,
I'm
guys.
lost.
a question in chat here. A question in chat here is why, and I don't know if you guys can answer this, but what is actually Dado's question? But he said, what's the significance of the ogre that spawns in the Skywatch in the hidden room?
Talking about Omnigul?
No. he's
Oh,
talking
that
about
guy.
this
Yeah, the guy that's down in the cave.
Yeah, you stand and you look over across the valley, and then if you just drop down under the.
I'm
By
pretty
the
sure
helicopter.
I'm pretty sure the significance of that guy is every time someone starts playing Destiny for the first time, you can take them down there and watch them scream when they jump down. It's really great. I've done that at least this many times.
Sometimes a gameplay feature is just a gameplay
over
feature.
that dead ghost.
Yeah. You should have seen my son when he went down there for the first time. It was good. I should have had him on video for that. That would have been fantastic. I feel like a bad parent for coaxing him down there and waiting for his reaction.
No, you're fine.
That's actually
Go
good
further.
carrying bag.
Further.
Go down there. Go down there. You're gonna put hair on your chest here. Are we all out here looking at this?
Yes.
So so the Aral Sea, in reality, is about 200 kilometers from the Baikonur Cosmodrome.
Mm-hmm.
And what we wanted to do was, for game purposes, move that a lot closer. And so the Aral Sea is very dried out, and people have probably seen pictures of ships and boats and things that are just stranded out there.
Yep.
And so yeah, we thought that would be kind of neat to have some stranded boats, and especially boats that would make good combat spaces. So if you go down into Forgotten Shore, we have our boats. And so we didn't have a ton of concept art for this place because we had so much great photo reference. And this is one of those times where the photo reference was so perfect for what we wanted to do that we just kind of went with it.
Art imitates life, huh?
Yep.
So this is based on an actual receding shoreline. This wasn't really, I always thought that this was sort of a matter of the collapse, you know, shifting geography or drying up oceans, but
this one was. So the real Aral Sea is from drainage, from agricultural drainage, I think.
Drainage.
This one is in the Destiny universe. We try to one of the ways we show passage of time is to move water. So we have things that are like coastlines that are receded, or water has intruded into buildings, or it's raised up into places. Let's head down over here, and then we'll get this strike going, because we are at 9:30 already.
Are we really? We've allotted our hour already, huh?
Do you want to keep going? Or
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
It's, you know.
I'm having a blast.
Yeah,
It
well,
sounds
so
like you guys
Rob,
are having fun.
We don't pay
Rob, a
Twitch
lot of
by
up
the
and
minute.
down.
Yeah.
A lot of up and down in the elevation of the Cosmodrome, right? I mean, a ton of elevation changes.
Yeah.
And this is so there's two reasons we do that. One of the well, there's probably more than two reasons, but two of the big reasons why we do it. In Destiny, there's a lot of movement on the Z-axis, so you're going up and down a lot with your movement modes and your double jumps and triple jumps and glides and all that. And the other reason is, if you look around this space right now and just kind of pan around, do a 360, some of these rocky outcroppings and ships and things that sort of block your sight line across the space, those are for technical purposes. So what we're doing is we're culling out and removing geometry behind that stuff, so that in any one view you never see too many things, and so the frame rate doesn't drop.
So right now, my game is not rendering that ship. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, in a perfect world, it would be gone, but in reality, some of it's going to bleed down, so you're going to get about 80% of that stuff dropping out.
So if I don't need to see it, it doesn't render it. It can adapt that quickly to where I'm looking and where I'm moving. And
so we have a middleware called Umbra that we use to occlude stuff, and it works fairly well for us most of the time.
Yeah.
Rob, Deej, I invited another guest to the chat.
Cool.
Her name is Tinks. Tinks.
Hey,
You have a
Tinks.
question for
Hey,
Deej
Tinks.
and
We know
Rob?
Tinks.
Hi.
Yeah, Tinks
We
on
play
the
together.
Facebook.
I did my
Yes.
first Vault of Glass hard with Tinks.
Oh yes, I taught you how to play,
You
right?
taught me how to play. You saved me. You carried me through. I think I called it.
There you go. That's humble.
Yeah. You carried me.
My question actually is for Rob. I was wondering if what you had in mind for the Cosmodrome, like what you envisioned pre-production, how does that compare to the Cosmodrome that we look at every day? Like, did it surpass your expectations, or is there anything that maybe didn't make the cut? Anything like that?
There's a lot of stuff that didn't make the cut. I think our original vision for this was something about 5 to 10 times bigger geographically. And our eyes were way bigger than our stomachs, I guess? Is that what you're saying?
I think our
We
eyes
wrote
were way
checks.
bigger than the devices we sought to deposit this software onto.
Yeah.
Not about our stomachs, it's about our
Stomachs?
consoles.
We wrote checks that
Yeah.
Anyway, we wanted to make it about 3, maybe 5 times bigger, and that you'd be driving around in your Sparrow for minutes and minutes to get from one place to the other. And what eventually happened was, for a variety of reasons, we ended up condensing things to be closer and closer. And one of the biggest reasons we did that was we wanted players to see other players, right? And when you get a space that's too big, you just don't see anybody, right? It's it's kind of empty and lonely. And the other problem is we have a limit to the number of combatants that we can have in a space at any one time. but that wasn't as much of a hard limit as just the number of players that we wanted people to see, right,
Sure.
and experience the world.
Sure, a social world, yeah.
Yeah, we wanted it to feel social, and so like, if you have a party and it's in a warehouse and you have 10 people, it sucks. But if you have a party in your living room, it's awesome, right,
Yeah.
with the same number of people. So we tried to condense these spaces to what we felt was a good balance between adventure, exploration, explorable real estate, and being able to see other people running around and doing stuff.
And action.
And action.
Yeah.
Action.
And action.
And action.
Continuous party.
Yep.
Continuous party. But, there's a part of me that wishes we could have 5 times as many players in a space and have 3 to 5 times the amount of real estate. So it's just a matter of working with the engine and working with the consoles over time to try to get closer to that dream.
And Tanks, having been a Bungie fan who got to come here and work with these guys and see what they do and see what they make, and get acquainted with them, I can tell you that in answer to a question, did this meet or surpass your expectations? The answer is always no. These guys are rampant perfectionists. Oh God, yeah. They are their own worst critics. I'm constantly telling people like, no, it's awesome. People love playing this game. Like you did a good job, and it's like we could have done better, and it's like, good. Keep doing better. Try to do better next time. But I remember when I first got here, I was so excited. Just looking at concept art, just looking at builds of the game. I would tell people, this looks amazing. This looks really cool. I can't wait to play it. And they'd say,
Yeah, Deej is right. We have to get torn away from this stuff, and I mean, I can look at this frame right now and I can point out the 20 things that I was still trying to fix when they pulled me back away from my screen and said no more.
No more. You're
No
locked out.
more!
You're locked out. We're shipping this. But
So,
if I had 10 more years, I could make it amazing. It's like it's already
Okay, 11
amazing.
year. No, 9 years.
No.
So we're looking at Rasputin's Lair. Is that
We're
picture
not
up right
even
now?
wait 11 more years to release it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we. So Rasputin's Lair. This was done by Dorje Belbrook, and this is another one of those pictures where a quick story behind this. We had struggled with this layer for a long time, like there were so many different versions of this thing, and the original idea was that because this was a shipping area and a port, the higher ups at Cosmodrome, the Seven Seraphs, their secret program, they decided to hide Rasputin's lair in plain sight because they knew people would try to find it. And so one of our ideas was, hey, if there was like a fueling station or something for this place where like transport ships and fishing boats and things would like refuel, they could just go ahead and put his base right underneath this fueling station and it would be hidden in plain sight. So at one point we had like a big fueling sign and cranes and pipes and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it got kind of weird and it was confusing everything. So we went with something that was a little bit more, I guess, generic.
Yeah.
And kind of castle looking. So
Yeah.
Dorje was inspired by old pictures of castles in Scotland. And so when you look at this picture, if you just kind of squint your eyes, it almost looks like an old Scottish castle or something.
Yeah, sure.
And you're approaching that from like a field.
Yeah.
That's that. And there's birds because every good piece of concept at Bungie has to have birds. Otherwise, it's not good.
And the birds made the cut. There they are in the
They're
distance.
still there.
And they're completely bulletproof.
Yeah. If it doesn't have birds, it's not done.
And one of the questions in chat, probably something that you've sort of answered as far as like having the amount of
We should go to orbit.
stuff going on in the game, but there's wildlife. We see some birds, but Cosmodrome animals, bears,
So
and
Pope,
coyotes.
Tanks, back to your question. One of the big things that we really, really wanted in this game that didn't get in, and something that we're working on pretty hard, is getting lots and lots of ambient life into the game.
Mm-hmm.
So when you play a game like Red Dead, you play a game like GTA or Far Cry, there's a lot of animals just kind of running around and doing their thing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
the best kind of what we want to, like, the animals that I think are great are the ones that kind of run away from you, or they react as you're going forward. So the animal is almost like a reaction to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like you see a deer just kind of walking around, or there's some butterflies just fluttering around and just ignoring you. But like the crows that fly away from you, right, in Destiny. That's one of the best examples of the types of animals and ambient life that we want in the game. So as you're doing your thing, and as you're fighting or on your sparrow, or you're creeping around a corner, something's gonna like skitter away and react to your presence.
Yeah.
And so we're really pushing on that going forward. But one of my big regrets about the game is that we didn't get enough of that in Destiny 1. To answer your question, Tinks, that was another thing.
Again, that lack of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to thank Tinks for dropping by.
Always.
And,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you out there.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Thanks,
So
Tinks.
we are on our way
Bye,
back down to
Tinks.
the surface. We're going to speed run our way through the Devil's Lair strike. And along the way, we'll stop and Rob will tell us about some of the different environments that we'll find inside the Devil's Lair. So equip your most badass weapons, Pope, because we're going to want to clear the area as quickly as we can.
You know, Deech, he has a few, believe it or not. I mean, after 30 days played, he has a few.
You got a few
weapons.
badass weapons?
I got a couple.
So
we'll
can you bring up
mean,
Rocket Yard Train?
I picked up a few.
Scott, can you bring up Rocket Yard Train? Thanks. So we're going to see a train. So this goes back to that kind of relatability. This train looks very Russian. It almost looks like maybe something out of Half-Life a little bit.
This is the GoldenEye train.
It's the Golden Age train.
GoldenEye train.
Golden
It's like
Eye
at the end of the
yeah.
James Bond movie, GoldenEye.
So again, it's
That's what it
a
reminds me
train
of.
locomotive. It looks a little bit futuristic. It looks a little bit contemporary. This one was done by Dorje Belbrook,
Yeah.
and it just turned out awesome. And like this train locomotive just feels so iconic, I guess, or quintessential Cosmodrome. It's the
Total,
perfect
yeah.
image of
Total,
Cosmodrome,
like, yeah. Cold War. I've got it framed up in game right here.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
so we're gonna head through this now. What we're seeing here is Rocket Yard, and again, when we were laying out our GI Joe base, we thought, well, a GI Joe base needs, if it's going to be a rocketry facility for sending off colony ships, it's going to need a kind of a staging area and a place where rocket parts would come in and where they'd move them around and they'd organize them to put them together. And so we thought that big rocket pieces and train cars would make.
So these are like fuselage sections. Like if you go to Cape Canaveral, or if you go to Space Camp, or if you go to SpaceX, they've got. So this is literally them building the rockets.
Exactly.
And it creates nice cover.
Yep, and that's the key, right? Like you're trying to come up with, I guess, good believable reasons for cover, good things that you would see that also just happen to be good cover objects. And
well, and those aren't the things that I think about when I play. I mean, we hope those are the things, those are not the things that you think about when you play. Like, oh, good, thank God they gave me so much cover in here.
Yep.
It's like when you're playing the game, hopefully you're just thinking, oh, thank God the Russians left this desk here, and thank God it's chest high.
Right.
That's very convenient. So, one thing we called out in Venus last week, you mentioned Joe Cross a couple of times. And when I see all this signage on the wall, it just makes it feel like, you need to wear your headphones because you're going into a place with machines.
Yeah.
All that iconography, all of that industrial signage is stuff that Joe Cross created for us. It's like, having a one-man branding agency right here in Bungie.
Yeah.
Who, but he's so malleable. It's like, now show us what a corporation would look like on Mars. Now show us what an academy would look like on Venus. Now show us what, the Cosmodrome would look like with about 40 years of space magic.
Yeah. Yeah, he's amazing. He also does a lot or most of our brand affinity for the weapons, skins for weapons.
Before we get into the next section here, and we're shooting a lot of guns. One of the admin in the Dads of Destiny clan that we're affiliated and partners with and belong to.
Yes.
Is Deep Fried Dave.
Deep Fried Dave.
He's just joined the party.
Awesome.
Deep Fried Dave is known most for building our database.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes,
the
intended.
database. I get it. I get what you did there.
He's done a great job finding people. You can find people in your area. You can, find people that are obviously, on the console you play on and everything else. So he's done a great job. Really, obviously with us being over 27,000 people, being able to find, people that you can play with and that have the same interest that you have.
Dude, that's incredible. I got to tell you, I mean, if that wasn't a shameless plug enough, I'll keep dogpile right on top of that and say the Dads of Destiny are one of my favorite success stories on Bungie.net, just because I'm a huge clan guy, huge fan of people who get together and play games as teams, and to see the way you guys have taken the tools we gave you and used that to build this huge consortium of all these different groups of people. They all have their own representation. They all work together to make sure that, you know, every dad has someone to play with and someone to represent them, you know, in terms of the greater leadership. That stuff's amazing. So hats off to you, Dave.
Yep.
In a way,
You inspired that.
No, what you guys have done is amazing, and I've been playing with you guys for only a few weeks, and it's absolutely incredible. Every time I play with you guys, like the amount of energy and the people that you guys are bringing in to play the games, and how organized you guys are and passionate, and the feedback that you've given us about the community has been just super valuable.
Always.
Yeah.
And if somebody had said to me before, you know, the game launched, they're like, "You think anybody's gonna, you know, use the, you know, clan alliance system?" I'd say, you know, I hope so. You know, and if they said, you know, like, what do you think will be the biggest alliance? I'm like, I don't know. I'd love to see some really big alliance with, you know, like a dozen clans and, you know, a couple hundred dudes. And it's like, oh no, there'll be a group of dads, all dads, and there'll be 27,000 people. You know, I would have thought, yeah, that's a lot of. There must be a lot of people playing this game if 27,000 dads can all find each other and get along.
Well, I've said it a couple times that they're really
capped 3 times now. There's a cap of the number of alliances you can have, right? So I think we've capped it out 3 times already.
Wow.
One of the cool things, obviously, about dads is that, you know, being a dad is kind of like being in a, you know, a fraternity, right? And it's like the largest fraternity in the world, and you obviously, everybody feels very special because it's your own kids, you know. And so it's been really fun to be able to share, you know, things like we do, like Stories from the Tower in our podcast, where we tell stories that dads share with us, and it's just one of those exclusive things. You know, it's so big, but nothing else can really compare to it. It's just been a lot of fun.
Now, Rob is you know, Rob's a dad, and I've actually been at a party where Rob was playing a strike with his kid because we had like a LAN set up there. And he said, that's the first time I ever played a game with my kid. So is there like a father-son component that gets involved at Dads of Destiny also? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, on Mondays I do a,
Hope your son plays.
we do a live stream. Yeah, on Mondays we do a live stream of Skylanders with my son. On our Twitch channel, and there's a clan. There's 2 clans in Dads of Destiny that are just for the kids of clan members, right?
Nice.
And it's just a bunch of kids meeting other kids, and it's kind of a safe environment where they can have friends online, but then not really have weirdos online.
Yeah, you know? Adult supervision in an internet, you know, based community that are playing games, I think is probably a good thing. Yeah.
We also try to cater. We also try to cater to the podcast to be. When we envision the podcast, we envision it being something that a dad and a son could sit down and listen to, and you know, and enjoy that. So we try to cater our podcast to make it, you know, friendly to that situation as well.
You guys haven't dropped an F-bomb this whole time.
It's amazing. I'm impressed.
I'm
actually impressed with you.
Well, you know, I've had my shots.
One of the reasons why I was really excited to bring Dave on is not only is he like a great leader within our group, but we've got like some super creative people in the group, and he was going to talk about some fan art that has been created.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, actually, we've had a couple of things that we're rotating through the Dads of Destiny website. 2 different pieces of rotating fan fiction that we're going to have up. Twice, I think bi-weekly, and then also some Destiny topic comics. So this is all stuff that's being brought in. The community is contributing. Just the dads that want to give back. So it's really an expression of how everybody appreciates what we do, and they want to get back to it. So.
And if our Twitch audience wanted to go check that stuff out, they would visit what URL?
www.dadsofdestiny.net.
.net. Very good.
You got it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Deej, you were talking about playing with my kid. I'll tell this story. It's only going to take about 45 seconds. But that night, so we're playing the strike, and I was about to go down, and I got scared and nervous because a bunch of people were watching. And I was fairly highly leveled, so I was going to get shamed again. One of my things is I die all the time. I play the game a lot, but I'm actually not very good. But I love it, and I die constantly. So people are always asking me like, "Oh, what's your excuse this time? What's your excuse this time?" So that night I was getting ready with my excuse, and super nervous. And my kid runs over, and I go, "Res me, res me, res me!" And he gets me, and reses me.
That's awesome.
And I was like, oh my god, thank you. And I actually felt like, wow, you saved me.
Yeah, yeah.
Good job, son. And
Nice.
the experience of having your son, like feeling like your son saved you, I don't know if like a parent would get to feel that very often, you know, a parent
Hopefully
of a
not.
7-year-old.
Yeah.
But even though it was fake and it was in a video game, I still felt it. And it was awesome. Like, I was like, holy crap, I get to feel that with my own kid.
Yeah,
It was
these games
neat,
poke
yeah.
an interesting corner of our monkey brains. You know, I mean, I've been in a clan myself for going on a decade now, and I think actually you're going to drag TTL Cosmo out here, you know, and embarrass
Absolutely,
us,
yeah.
or shine a
Absolutely,
spotlight on
yeah.
our bromance. But we've been playing games since, you know, Halo 2. We were in different clans in Halo 2, but Halo clans kind of have a way of kind of collapsing in on themselves, and
Hold on.
we had an
Hold up,
alliance. Oh, yep. And, you know, I think the friends that you make playing these games feel like friends that you've known, you know, for a long time. Just because if you spend, you know, 3 hours a week or 6 hours a week or 9 hours a week in a game like the 12 hours a week in a game, you know, over time spent a lot of time with these people, you know, and the next thing you know, like you're inviting one of them to come to your bachelor party and your wife says, who is this person? Do you know him? And I'm like, well, I mean...
Yes.
Have you ever seen him before?
No, but he's watched my back in a lot of intense combat, baby. That creates a certain bond that you don't understand, you know?
Is his name really
And that's
Deep
a- that's-
Fried Dave?
Hey, bring up Blast too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
you had a couple
Back in
quick
the
questions. A quick question before we got to Dado's question. I think we're at the area where Dado's question relates to. But Dave, did you have a quick question for Deej or Rob?
Well, actually, just want to follow up on a topic you guys were on a little while ago, just to make it clear. The scariest moment in this entire game is when the fluorescent light of death comes shaking down from the ceiling at you at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
the
that's
only
that
question,
light. It gets me every time too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Real quick, between the Forgotten Shore and the Moth Yards, there's just kind of like a real serene path that all of a sudden just takes you away from everything else that's in the Cosmodrome.
Yep.
With the waterfalls and streams and such. Was that intentional to kind of seem like a transition? Or was there anything else there?
Yeah, it was intentional. Well, it started out as unintentional, and it's got... All right, so the story behind that is the Forgotten Shore and Moth Yards were actually a little bit farther away from each other physically than what we really intended. And a normal vehicle transition in Destiny is about 125 meters to do it properly. And that transition ended up being close to 190, 200 meters, just because for whatever reason, we just had those two spaces sitting too far apart.
Yeah.
And so what I tried to do, I'm a little flattered that you pointed that out, because that was like, I made that space with people helping, but that was kind of one of my little babies.
Nice.
What I wanted to do there was kind of give you a break, because I knew it was going to be a lot of space, and I figured, well, if I just reuse a lot of pieces and just kind of create this canyon run, kind of like you're playing a racing game, that it would feel kind of nice. And then I got the water in there with the help of Nate Hobbacker. And once the water got in, it started to feel really good, and then just use a lot of photo reference. And thank you for appreciating that. Makes me feel good.
Yeah. Nate will be thrilled too. He's been so passionate about the water in this game. Like when he first came to Bungie, we both came from the community. You know, we both frequented some of the same websites, and he came up to me one point. He said, "Hey, remember when Frankie used to write all those articles about the water? Do you think you could do that?" And I'm like, "Working on the water?" He's like, "Yes, I am."
Yes, I am.
Well, the water's awesome. Even the little puddle, you know, by the vaults in the tower, you know, that little water puddle that's there. I've ran through that thing and looked at it a million times.
We're trying to mop those things up, but those robots really do a bad job.
They don't mop it up. They just don't.
You're just moving it around. You know, I'm going to dismantle you. I'm going to dismantle you for robot parts.
Do you have any pictures up right now?
So where are we going?
Hey, so we're going to look at a really
Thanks so much, Dave, for joining.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for your support, guys.
We're going to look at a really quick piece of concept art. Now, can you bring up Blast 1? Okay, so this was done by Jesse Van Dyke, and if you guys know the space that we were just in fighting the Fallen and Hive.
Yes.
So that's that's actually called Refinery, and what they did in the Cosmodrome was they had to fill these ships with lots and lots of fuel. And the fuel was so volatile that they actually refined it and mixed it right there in the base, in Refinery. So when you fight through this strike, and you're in that previous space, that's what that space would have been used for, is the refining of the fuel for the ship. And what happened was, when you look at this picture, this is called the blast. And you can get rid of that image now. Thanks, Scott. So in the blast, when the people came in and the civilians just kind of overran the base and chaos broke out and there were fires, there was a point at which the fuel lines exploded. And when they did, they left that huge crater. So to go back to Dado's question.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Why is that giant crater in the middle of this space? It's because the fuel lines for the ship exploded before the ship ever took off.
And there they are.
And there they are.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting.
And there's another little story about that. Once upon a time, we were going to litter this space with what I wanted to call smile pods. So SMILE is an acronym for Suspended Mobility Interplanetary Length Expeditions.
Everybody knows that, so proceed.
Right. Oh, so you guys say that too? That's cool.
Yes. We thought we were the only ones.
Yeah, Suspended Mobility for Interplanetary Length Expeditions. So,
it's pretty common.
So the reason I like to call them smile pods is because inside of each pod was going to be a mummified, pruned up person that would have gone to one of the colonies.
Nasty.
And lived their life out, but they never got there because the ship blew up, the lines blew up, and all these little pods were scattered all over the place.
Yeah.
So we ran out of time to make the smile pods, maybe for better or for worse.
Yeah, that would have been a little grisly.
Yeah, we probably would have lost our teen rating, maybe, for smile pods. Dead people inside of blast. So, but what we have here is, if you look up and you look at the colony ship, because that ship never took off, because the fuel lines exploded, it's packed with mummified colonists to this day.
So where would they be? And look at my screen. Are they?
I can't tell you exactly where they are because that would be giving away secrets.
Okay.
But they're on the ship.
Well, I know where the pilot's ship because Craig Hargrove from Guardian Radio told me about all the times that he flew the space shuttle.
Yeah. But he never landed it, though.
No, they let someone else land it. Well, you know, parking the car is no fun. It's flying it and doing barrel rolls in space and
Can you bring
all
up
kinds of stuff.
Cosmoblast 2011? So I'm going to show you guys another before and after, super quick. So this is the 2011 version of this bubble, this area that you're in right now. And then bring up 2014.
Show me what they're looking at.
All right. And then this is what we've got now. And again, you can see the progress over a couple of years.
And then the final version's on my screen, of course.
Yeah. And you guys had a question? There was someone with a question?
Well, I was going to say TTL Cosmo has joined us. Who obviously, you know, the bromance between him and Deej, but you know, TTL Cosmo has been a friend of mine. We actually did an event here in the Texas area called Tex Guard, where we got a bunch of people from the Destiny community together and went and had some drinks and a good time, and so he's joined us as well.
Nice. All right, fire away. I'll try to answer if I can. If Deej will let me.
Cosmo's kind of the strong silent type.
Right, Cos, you there?
He must be a Titan.
He's a Texan.
He must be a Titan.
All Texans are Titans? Is that,
no.
Is that what you told me?
No, I'm just saying all Cosmos are Texan.
Oh, okay.
All the Cosmos I know are Texan. All of the TTL Cosmos.
He's in the party, so...
yeah, there, all right, movement, there it is. Hey!
Hey!
Oh, trying to get his mic to work. Yep.
There we go.
I'm gonna get shot with the tank.
Oh, I'm gonna get... Nice. He was teeing up on me.
The spider tank.
And he left the party.
I can talk about the...
I'll get him back.
Okay.
I'll get him back.
Okay, so while he's coming back, I'll talk about the spider tank. So, you'll notice that a lot of the bosses in Destiny are hard, and there's lots of ways to beat the bosses.
Mm-hmm.
And the nice thing about the spider tank is that there's waves to the spider tank. Like you shoot his knees, and then he opens up his neck. And that's a little sneak peek into where we're trying to go with our bosses. So we're trying to get these more and more interesting phases to the bosses where they do things and they change over time and they have different challenges to them.
Whoa! I think my shotgun just shot a Gallarhorn round. Did you guys see that? This dead orbit shotgun is amazing. How did I do that?
Oh, he's back.
So here's a funny story.
Backgrounds are amazing.
I had a meeting one time with somebody who was coming in to take a look at our game, and I had kind of got the impression that they were going to be a little squeamish about violence. and we were taking him through the Devil's Lair strike, and then when we got to this part, all of a sudden the ceiling was the most important part of the game, because instead of having him look at this stuff,
Yeah.
it's like, and I mean, just look at the
beautiful.
Look at the way the
yeah.
shadows, like, like the light is swinging, and like the ceilings, even the ceilings, and like the Fallen have their own banners, because oh Jesus, oh no, and it's like see, I mean, don't you have like fluorescent lighting like this in your office? And I'm just like, I blew through here as fast as I possibly could, like, oh wow, look, more Fallen banners, holy crap, oh
yeah,
no,
there you go.
oh no.
That's a good way to get through.
Yeah, we come into this whole Temple of Doom space here.
Hey, so before we kill Sepix, I'm gonna show some stuff really quick. Can you bring up Colony Ship 1?
I left a couple. I left the one ad up.
Okay, yeah, cool. That's perfect. Nobody kill that Fallen if you can. So look way
gotta
to the
hide
top of the
inside
Colony
there.
Ship.
Yep. And then bring us back, Scott.
So, once upon a time, yeah, bring us back to Deej. Okay. So that's the Colony Ship as we see it today. And then if you can bring up that other one, Colony Ship 1. So Darren Bacon, a few years ago, this was one of the first concept pieces that we had for the Colony Ship, and it was going to be kind of like a giant space shuttle, a little bit like the one that you saw in Avatar. Like there was kind of a big space shuttle in Avatar, and it was kind of inspired by that. And that's how colonists would have gotten out to those colonies. And then over time, check out Colony Ship 2. So it sort of evolved into this this version here, and you can see it's very space shuttle themed.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
But I don't know if the guys can see on the far right, the line on the upper part of the ship, the black line, is actually a bunch of windows. So this, this thing would have actually been, 10 times the size of a space shuttle.
Space liner, right?
But yeah, like a lifting body, and so it would have gotten to the colony, and then it would have used like its lifting body to glide in, and then people would have gotten off. And then eventually we have Colony Ship 3. Let's bring up Colony Ship 3. So yeah, this is a Jesse Van Dyke concept. We actually, this was so awesome that we made it into a poster. It was like 8 feet across, and we have it hanging up in the studio. And so what you see in this picture is you see these loader arms, and I've played through this a bunch of times with people, and they're like, what are those things? And so those big robot arms that you see in the middle of this picture, the yellow ones, and actually we'll go back to Deej right now. And Deej is going to look at those arms. So those would have been like giant loaders, and the colony ship would have slid back on these tracks. If you look up at these tracks here.
Yeah, you can see.
So the colony ship would have slid back, and then the loader arms would slide forward and back, and they would have loaded those canisters, those huge cargo compartments onto the ship.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So we try to, I think we put a lot of thought into it. Like we try to figure this stuff out, and I think we like nerd out on it a little bit, maybe too much.
Not a little bit.
Really, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
You
I
guys
think
are
the more
total nerds, but I love you for it.
nerd out. That's the super nerd version of the space.
Yeah, but the cool thing is, like, we're here and we're fighting, and it's like, that's the thing, is like, the whole time you're in this space, you're like focused on this guy. And you have some, gonna show that too?
I don't know if we have that one. Do we have the Sepix stuff in
Yeah,
there?
I gave it.
Oh yeah, let's get Sepix 1. So...
You have that up, Scott?
He's getting it. You might not have that one.
No, I gave it to him.
Okay.
This guy's hassling
really
me,
dark.
man.
It's like a dark rectangle. You see it?
There's a nice little tube you can hide inside of here.
So what you're seeing here is some different versions of Sepix, and you can take that away. Thanks, Scott. One thing that we were really trying to do with Sepix was, because he's just a ball, we were really trying to make him feel like a character, and so audio plays a big part in that. The way he changes states, the way he kind of growls at you and appears behind you. We tried to make him really, really scary. And make him feel like a character, even though he was just a ball. So that was one of the big challenges with making this guy feel like an ultra boss.
So go ahead and, if we're back on my screen, go ahead and kill that last guy, and we'll see Sepix transform here.
All right, let's do it.
Rob, do you have are there gonna be plans for any of the fans to be able to get a hold of any of this concept art? Any way that they can get any of these prints or anything through the Bungie store or anything?
Well, we do have a book. Do you know about the book enough to talk about it? Is that retail?
Yeah, there's the Art of Destiny is something that everyone can get their hands on, and we'll also upload this to YouTube. So if you just want digital files, you can screen clip that stuff off of there.
We still have to put watermarks on some of this stuff before we can put it on. Upload it anywhere. But a lot of this art is actually in the Art of Destiny. It's like a coffee table book.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And they can get a hold of that through the
Yeah.
Bungie store or like Amazon?
Where do they buy that?
Yeah, just search for it on the internet. There's a lot of places you can grab it.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was in the chat.
Thanks, Bo.
Let's put this turkey down.
Let's get him.
Get him!
Get him.
Get him, Pa!
Get him, boy.
There's a big blue eyeball on the front porch, Pa! What do we do?
Get him good.
Cosmo, I think they're making fun of us here in Texas. Can you believe this?
Oh no, no, we're honoring you. We're worshiping you.
We're worshiping.
Yeah,
We are in fact
imitation is a
worshiping
form
you.
of worship. I wish I was born in Texas. I tell you.
I wish I was Texas.
God, I wish I was. Yeah, I wish I was Texan. That would,
No, you don't.
Texan or Russian. Either one of those would be great.
Get them, Pa.
Oh, he's dead.
What happened? Oh,
Died so
man.
fast.
Russian Texan.
Oh my God, can you
All right,
imagine?
can you guys
That
hear
would
me
be the
now?
best ever.
Yes, we can hear you.
And
There you are.
Cosmo.
All right, sorry about that.
There he is.
Headphones
Comrade,
were-
did you bring the sweet tea from Houston?
I gotta do this at the end before we go.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
We'll
So
talk
we'll
to
take more
Cosmo for a
questions.
minute, and then we'll. Is Cosmo the last guest?
Yes,
He
sir,
is.
he is.
They always
The
do.
grand finale, right?
Grand finale.
He's the grand finale.
Oh, I forgot to show the dish. Oh well.
So Cosmo, what's the first question you got here tonight?
I think all my questions have pretty much been asked by someone else. So
Think of something. Think of something quick.
I got something here. This is actually from one of my users from Reddit, Javiero Abagazo.
Wow.
He wanted to know if there
That's a
was
mouth.
any literary works that drew artistic inspiration for you guys. Did you guys pull anything from like art, like books or literary works?
Yeah, that would be a great question for our writers and our art director. I know there's an answer to that, and I'm not qualified to answer. And I would do you might do a better job.
Yeah, I
of
mean,
answering.
it's not any one thing. It would be difficult to say that, it would be difficult to say that there was any one book that influenced Destiny. A lot of the themes are, about, redemption. It's a post-apocalyptic game, but it's also bright and hopeful. There are things to take pride in. There are things to, regard as beautiful. There's a lot of things in it that are hideous. There are a lot of different themes that kind of converge in this game just because it's such a big game and covers so much ground that you can go to different spaces, and you can have different types of experiences there. When you're in old Russia, it feels very much like, sort of like a Mad Max movie,
Yeah.
And then when
Road
you
Warrior.
go to, Venus, it's, when you go to the moon, it feels very much like Aliens. There's this lost outpost that's been shattered. In terms of actual books, it's difficult to go on record about that sort of thing.
All right, forget that question then. I got another one.
All right.
Going back to the moth yard, someone wanted to know if the planes were influenced by the Russian Antonov AN-225.
Wow.
Well, man, I think if I answer that one, we might get in a little bit of trouble. So we have.
Or
Well, I'll tell you this. There's a lot of pictures of planes on the internet, and those are awesome photos. Those Antonovs are some of the most amazing photos that I've seen on the internet.
Are those like the enormous?
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, that's
and
like the
they'd
biggest.
be perfect for Destiny. I mean, just imagine they'd be amazing. To put in
Yeah,
our
they would
game,
be.
yeah.
They would
Yeah.
fit in the world just right, Rob.
Yep, pretty
Yeah.
much. yeah.
Big planes in our big world.
As I like to say, if you guessed that, you would be a great guesser.
Well, I have a question here from the chat,
Yeah.
and they're asking. A lot of people are asking, and I don't know if y'all can answer this, but will we be ever able to explore the last city?
Not our call to make, certainly. I mean,
I hope so.
Yeah, do you hope so?
Yeah,
you
I want to go there.
You want Grand Theft Auto Last City?
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Possibly.
My fear is that I would go down there and do bad things, and that would kind of ruin the lore. Like, I was in the coffee house last week, and this warlock came in and Nova bombed the whole place. It was terrible. I'm the only one left alive. It's like, I thought Destiny took place in a bright, hopeful world. It's like it did until the second one came out, and now they're just Nova bombing coffee houses. He said it was part of a homework assignment for something he's in called Fight Club. It was terrible.
What's the first rule of Fight Club?
I know.
What's
I'm
the first
sorry.
rule of Fight Club?
We don't talk about Fight Club.
All right.
I'm sorry.
There's a ton of
Sorry,
people asking
that's
for,
actually the
for
official answer
music
to your
in the bar,
question.
so.
From now on, if anybody says, "Can we explore the last safe city?" I'll be like, "We don't talk about Fight Club."
We don't talk about Fight Club. We don't talk about Fight Club.
I'm only here so I don't get fined.
Well,
That's all
I
you
would
have
like
to
to
Ruin a corporate sculpture.
I'll go on
trash
record.
a
I would go on
franchise coffee
record.
bar.
I'd go on record saying I would love to explore the last city, and I think a lot of folks at Bungie would as well. That would be awesome. You're not alone.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's good to like
You are
things.
not
Yeah,
alone.
it's good to like things. I would like that.
You go on like
Well, we
things.
definitely appreciate you guys taking us through the Cosmodrome.
Yeah,
This has been a ton of fun.
absolutely our pleasure. It's really fun to see the way these things come together. I can tell you, as somebody that doesn't know a lot about making games but loves playing them and came here to help talk about this sort of thing. It's amazing to see the way these guys blend all of their different talents to create something like this. So, to see Rob kind of spin all this out for us and kind of take us down this walk down memory lane, in concept art and game builds is awesome.
Yeah,
I'll let you
most
sign
of those most of those memories are good memories. Some of them are painful. Some of them are very very late nights. And a lot of folks, honestly, like a lot of folks worked their asses off on this content, and I'm actually gonna just take a second to acknowledge some of these guys because they really deserve to be acknowledged for working so hard. So I have a list here, and if I forget anybody, I'll get to that in a second. So some of the artists that worked on Cosmodrome, Mike Means, Mike Malota, Andrew Hops, and you guys might have seen some of these guys out playing Destiny, 'cause they're all big players. Tyson Allen, Chris Cannon, Sloan Hood, Francisco Cruz, Eric Castles, Dan Theiger, Ethan Shu, Andy Kreutzer, Sam Rux, Rusty Durbin, Mark Peterson, Matt Turner, Frank Robbins, Mike Poe, Madison Parker, Thad Steffen, Andrew Baker, Ed Brennan, Steve Klipowitz, Jesse Van Dyke, George A. Belbrook, Frank Capozito, Adrian Myshak, Jamie Jones, Joe Cross, Cameron Pinard, Tom Burlington, Nate Hawbacker, the Water Guy, and Ryan Ellis. And the designers, Niall Sankey, Sam Beliveau, James Sy, Dan Grafstrom, Ryan Parody, Tom Farnsworth, Jacob Benton, Emmy Chung. And if I missed anybody's name, you can find me and punch me anywhere but my face or my crotch.
There's a lot of real estate left over.
That is my promise to you.
Nice.
If I left your name
I
off
like it.
anywhere but the face or the crotch, you can punch me as hard as you want. And a special thanks to my wife, Nicole, and my kids, Elliot and Leah, for being patient with me while working on this for the last 3 years. You would not believe how patient these guys were with me. And a big congrats to my son, Elliot, who he hit level 32 on his hunter tonight at 6:45 p.m.
Damn.
Congratulations.
He outranks me.
Congratulations.
For a
That's
7-year-old
awesome.
kid, man, I got to tell you, he was pretty excited.
That's awesome.
And especially thanks to you guys for playing and exploring what we've built, because it means a lot to us that you guys like what we did.
Yeah, that's the one I
thank
would
you for
echo
building
the
it, 'cause we
loudest.
really
Is
enjoy it.
thanks to the people who, God, if you're on the East Coast watching this, it's late. So if you're into Destiny enough to sit here and listen to us chat about it for as long as we have tonight, that's awesome. And we're really flattered. So that's why we like putting on these shows. We're going to keep doing these because we're having so much fun doing them, and a lot of people are downloading them. So why not? Next week we are going to be on Mars with lead world artist Jason Sussman, and our very special guest on the ride along will be Craig Hargrove from Guardian Radio.
Oh, yeah.
Who has an intimate
Craig's a good
understanding
friend. Yeah.
of Mars as part of the JPL team that put the Mars Curiosity rover. So many of the images that we've seen of Mars that we actually, we looked at a lot of the Mars Curiosity stuff, when we were concepting and building, and that's thanks to the optics system that he helped design and put on board that craft. So,
Yeah, so Craig knows all about geology, and that's one of the things he specializes in. He's been helping out with studying Mars geology. And he knows a lot about interplanetary geology, and we invited him out. Some of you guys may know this, but we had him come out last year, and we designed a kind of like Geology 101 for game art, where he could talk about actual Earth geological features and formations so that we could build cliffs and rocks and things more realistically.
Yeah.
But he also talked about speculative geology, things that you might see on Venus or things that you might see if you went to Mercury, based on the science that exists today. And that was super useful. So we loved having him out, and we're looking at having him back out again. So he's a collaborator with the art as well.
he's there to stimulate our imagination. He hates it when we call him our science advisor because there's so many things that we do in our game that completely break the science. But, everything changed with the arrival of the Traveler. So just keep throwing that out there. So, Dads of Destiny, thank you so much for coming on a ride with us tonight. This has been a blast.
Siege, it's been our pleasure. It's been our pleasure.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
can't tell you how much fun I've been having playing with different Bungie artists throughout the last few weeks, and I can tell you that to everybody out there who's listening and from all the Dads of Destiny, we really appreciate how passionate you guys are about the game that you're making, and it really shows your fans. You're not only you make the game, but you're huge fans of the game, and we've just enjoyed playing with you. So
Well, and
thank
we're
you
also
very much.
passionate about the things you guys do with it. So, you know, like I said, if someone had ever told me that there was going to be a 27,000 Dad Alliance on board a couple of months after we launched this thing, I think I would have been frightened. But, so, you know, you guys
Well,
take what we make and you make it real. So thank you.
Thank you, and I want to thank the two other founders, KP and SSM, who helped me when we first started this thing, and there was just 3 of us sitting in a chat room talking. So thank you very much.
Hey, so are you guys going to be doing Crota later? Because I'll be on in about 20
Absolutely.
minutes. All right, we'll see you there.
Yeah, let's
All right.
do it.
You going to do Crota tonight?
No, I'm gonna go home and play Crucible with Cosmo.
All right.
This has been a Bungie ride along. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to the Dads of Destiny. We're out.